Recently, I wrote an article about movies that were surprisingly hard to find on streaming or Blu-ray, and one of the films I mentioned was a little-remembered 1988 thriller called Shoot to Kill. The movie was a decent box office hit back in the day, but outside of a DVD release many years ago, it is kinda sunk into obscurity. This is a shame, as Shoot to Kill is a nifty little movie. After a few comments praised the film, I decided to revisit it for myself, as I honestly hadn't seen it since the 90s and had no idea if it would hold up. To my surprise, not only did it hold up, but Shoot to Kill is actually a bit of a lost 80s action classic. The film stars Sidney Poitier as a veteran FBI agent who's investigating a strange robbery where the owner of a diamond broker robs his own store. It turns out the desperate man stole his own diamonds in order to pay off a man holding his beloved wife hostage. Poitier's G-Man underestimates the criminal, and in the end, the bad guy murders the diamond broker's wife, his maid, and even his dog. Shaken up by the fact that this jewel thief would kill so many innocent people, Poitier's FBI agent becomes obsessed with finding him, only to discover that the man has hightailed it into the Pacific Northwest wilderness and has actually infiltrated a group of fishermen who are being led through the mountains by a female guide named Sarah Rennell, played by young Kirstie, who was on Cheers at the time and would star in Look Who's Talking the next year. Luckily, Sarah's boyfriend, Jonathan Knox, played by the great Tom Berenger, is an expert tracker and mountain man, and the two team up to track down the fishing party before the killer, whose identity we don't know at this point, can be revealed. Now, to me, this is a great premise for an action flick, as it has all the elements. It has excellent motivation for both heroes, with Poitier's Warren Stanton feeling guilt over the people he couldn't protect, while Berenger's Knox just wants to rescue his girlfriend. The two are also a classic mismatched pair in 1980s buddy cop movie fashion, with Poitier a sophisticated older urbanite, who of course is an older black dude, with no wilderness experience whatsoever, while Berenger is the younger white guy, a total loner who, despite his skills in the mountains, has never had to kill anyone or has been pitted against a monster. It's the classic black guy, white guy formula that made Lethal Weapon such a hit, and also was used to great effect in movies like Running Scared. This makes the film work on a whole lot of levels, being both a straight-ahead thriller with tons of action, but also having elements of a mismatched buddy comedy worked in. It's expertly directed by Roger Spottiswoode, who made a whole slew of interesting thrillers in the 80s, including Terror Train, Under Fire, and Air America, before taking an ill-advised stab at comedy with Stop or My Mom Will Shoot. He bounced back when he directed Tomorrow Never Dies. But what makes Shoot to Kill really work is how exceptionally well cast it is. Younger viewers may not appreciate how big of an icon Sidney Poitier was at the time Shoot to Kill was made, but suffice to say, the man was and is a legend. Poitier was the first black movie star, winning an Oscar for Lilies in the Field and having starred in a slew of classics including In the Heat of the Night and Guess Who's Coming to Dinner. Shoot to Kill was his first time in front of a camera in 12 years, as he had prematurely retired from acting to try his luck as a director. Like everything in Poitier's life, he kinda aced the assignment. Actually, he was the first black director to ever make a movie that grossed over $100 million at the box office when he made the Gene Wilder and Richard Pryor comedy classic Stir Crazy. But in the late 80s, he decided he wanted to act again, and when he made Shoot to Kill, Poitier was actually 60 years old. And this is a pretty bold role for him to take, as by the nature of the film, it's highly physical. In fact, he spends most of the movie in the mountains, hiking, climbing rocks, and doing lots of pretty physically taxing stuff that, impressively, he doesn't really seem to have been doubled for. And indeed, doing a little research, it looks like Poitier actually did a lot of his own stunts, which is very impressive for a man of his age in the 1980s. More than anything, his gravitas gives the film an extra oomph, as he has the aura of a man who's been through a lot, as by virtue of his age, his character would have been one of the first black FBI agents. And as he tells Berenger at one point in the movie, he's faced off with the Mafia, the KKK, and the KGB. And indeed, Poitier has, on screen that is. In fact, in the organization, he took on the Mafia, he took on the KKK in the Heat of the Night, and he took on the KGB in a thriller that came out the same year as Shoot to Kill, Little Nikita. You also buy him as a man that's haunted by his own failure, as near the end of the film, his pursuit of the villain becomes almost suicidal, as he just doesn't want another innocent life to be taken. But Poitier also is kind of hilarious. I mean, the guy was a funny guy. I mean, whoever directed Stir Crazy had to be a funny guy. And his kind of deadpan reactions and disbelief at the various things he encounters in the mountains, such as a moose and a grizzly bear that he manages to scare away, give the film some much-needed laughter, because otherwise it's pretty grim stuff.
Everybody else around here act like they've never seen a black man before. Why should the bear be different?
Berenger is just as good in a rare action role, playing a rugged mountain man with a soft side. Kirstie Alley could have been saddled with the generic woman in peril role, but her character is actually tough and resourceful. And even once the bad guy has been revealed, as she gets taken hostage, she constantly tries to get free and never really becomes kind of a classic victim. In some ways, she's the star of her own action movie happening simultaneously. She's never just the screaming damsel in distress. As for the villain, this is where it gets kind of tricky. The film goes through great pains to hide his identity so that when he infiltrates the fishing party, you don't really know who the bad guy is. In fact, 3 of the other fishermen are played by well-known character actors who have played villains before, including Dirty Harry's Andrew Robinson, Richard Mazur, and Frederick Coffin. Plus, there's the Kurgan himself, Clancy Brown. Okay, so, to someone in 2024, it may not be that much of a mystery who the killer is, as only one of the guys has really become a legendary big-screen villain, and I'm not talking about Richard Mazur. Even still, the mystery aspect works really well until it's abandoned about 40 minutes into the movie, which is maybe a shade too early. Overall, Shoot to Kill is a pretty stunning piece of old-school action filmmaking, with good performances, hair-raising stunts, and excellent location shooting in BC and San Francisco. My only complaint is that the musical score by John Scott is a tad cheesy, with too much damn saxophone. But alas, that was the era. Part of me thinks that if Michael Kamen, Alan Silvestri, or Jerry Goldsmith had scored this, it would be a classic. Heck, even Sidney Poitier's old buddy Quincy Jones could have probably given this a heck of a good score. All things considered though, this winter of 1988 film was a good-sized hit at the box office, making more than twice its budget back, and it was a popular VHS rental. So why isn't it out on Blu-ray? It seems to have fallen into kind of a gray zone of unavailable movies that were released by Disney's adult label Touchstone Pictures in the 80s. A lot of these movies, like Ruthless People, Down and Out in Beverly Hills, and Stakeout, are available on Disney Star internationally, and Shoot to Kill was streaming at some point, as there's a good HD copy of it floating around out there. It's just not available at the moment. That's really too bad because this movie is a little gem that's worth rediscovering, especially given the fact that Poitier passed away not too long ago. His body work really is terrific, and it's cool to see him in a straight-ahead action role because the guy could have been an action hero. If you can find it, you should really give it a shot.